Hello, Aaron with Tribble Painting, and here we are. We're going to be working on this garage where we got to get some scraping done, get this loose paint off. So we're going to go through the steps and show you how to do that. We're going to first cover up the ground. We're going to go over some tools that we use, show you how to do the actual scraping and get the loose paint off, and then clean it up. So stay tuned, and we will show you all these steps in a minute. Okay, so first thing we're going to do to get started with the scraping here is we're going to cover up the ground to collect the paint chips. There's lots of different things you can use for that. Thing I like to use here is just your standard painter's plastic. You can get at your local paint store, hardware store. We're going to put this down on the ground. We're going to actually tape it to the foundation with this rough surface tape to help collect all those chips so they're not getting into the ground and we're raking your backyard. So we're going to get started on that, and we'll show you how to go about that. Okay, so we got our ground covered up so we can collect all these paint chips and not getting in your flower beds or in your lawn. So now we're going to go into the tools. So these are a couple tools that I like to use. There are a lot of different products on the market that you can get for scraping. There's power tools, there's different hand tools. What we have here is this is a standard carbide scraper. You can get at your local paint store. And then a 5-in-1. I have a fancy folding one here. They have different models of this as well. These are the two that I typically like to use. Depending on what you're scraping, you may need something a little stronger, but for most stuff, these two will work fine. Okay, so here's our siding. You can see we got paint already coming off. It's very obvious that the paint's wanting to come off there. So these are pretty simple to scrape. These nice big flat surfaces are pretty good for a carbide. These will take off a lot of paint real fast. You do want to be careful with these. This blade's pretty sharp. If you go too hard into the wood, you're going to tear the wood up. If you go against the grain of the wood, you're going to shred the wood, and it's going to have a fur to it. It's going to look real bad. You don't want to do that. So we're going to go with the grain with this carbide scraper and just kind of drag it across. You can see how it's taking all that paint off. Pretty quick, pretty easy. So that's good for a flat surface, and you can see we got this Dutch lap siding. There's this nice little curve to it and then these little angles. Our carbide's not quite so good for getting into those because you'd have to go against the grain to get in there. It's a good place for a 5-in-1. So you can go in here and scrape at these. You can kind of go gentle and just get under the edges of all the loose paint so that you're not digging into the wood too bad. You can check these underside corners here. And when you're scraping, you want to hit all these loose edges. You want to try to hit them from a couple different angles so that you may hit it from one side and it's not quite loose, but then if you hit it from a different angle, cut across it from a different way, it may pop off. So you want to make sure you get all this loose product off. The paint you put on is only as good as what's underneath it. And if you still have loose paint, you put your fresh paint on, it's going to pop right off. So yeah, it's real important that you go through and get all the loose paint off. And then from there you can go into, you get the surface cleaned up and apply your paint, depending on what substrate you're using. You want to talk to your local paint store, whether you need a specific primer for the substrate that you're putting paint on, or if you can just use, most products now are a paint and primer in one. So a lot of them you can use those for the primer itself. Okay, so we've gone over scraping on your typical siding. Another thing that you can be doing some scraping on, here we have some windows. In a lot of newer houses, the windows are clad. You don't have to worry about this. This is an older window, so you got a couple different areas here where we got to get some scraping done. Here you can see the glazing is coming off, so you're going to want to go in there real careful and just gentle so you don't scratch or crack the glass. Just knock out the loose stuff so you can get that all out of there and then replace the glazing. Another thing we have down here is we have they've obviously ran a bead of caulk on the bottom here. This you might have to get in here with a razor blade. You can see how this edge is loose. but the caulk is kind of flexible, so it doesn't want to come off. So you're gonna have to go in there with a razor blade and cut that off, and then get that sealed up. So it's also, it's just important when you're scraping things like this, if you got trim like this, you always want to check your edges, check your corners, look underneath. You know, you got some peeling caulk and paint down here. If you don't check all these, there could be some rotten wood hiding underneath there that you'll be covering up, and it'll be be a situation you'll have to deal with down the road that you could have taken care of while you're working on it. Save yourself some time and some money. So important to check all your surfaces that you're getting ready to paint. Okay, so here we've run into something that you may encounter on your siding. We got a nail head that's sticking out. You want to be careful, because if you hit this with your carbide scraper, these blades are sharp, but they're brittle. So you can chip your blade real good if you hit that nail head too hard. So you want to just pound that in. Some 501s come with a little pommel on the end. You can just bang it in that way. Another old but trusty option is your hammer. You can just pound that nail in, and you're good to go. Keep scraping. So one thing, quick mention, when you're doing your scraping, pay attention to the weather. You don't want to let this get wet, because what could happen, if you've got it all scraped down, so you get your whole side of your house scraped down, and then rain comes before you can get it sealed up, you're probably going to have to go back through and double check everything, because the moisture can get in here and cause some of these edges to pop up again, make the paint curl, and you'll have to recheck all of your scraping. So kind of want to get it sealed up while you have the weather for it. All right, so we're all done scraping. It's down to the cleanup step, so we're gonna wipe the siding down, just knock off any loose debris, get it into the plastic, and then we're gonna roll up the plastic to contain all those chips and get them disposed of. So obviously, you don't always necessarily have to use a broom. You could actually do this as you're scraping along. You could just have a little duster brush with you and just kind of dust down any loose stuff stuck to the siding as you're scraping along, instead of brooming the whole side down. All right, well, so we're all ready to get going priming and painting. So thanks for checking out our video, and check out all our social media. Look us up on Facebook and Instagram. Hello. All right, try that again.
Introduce.
What am I doing again?